Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank. He's David Morisuti, and this is CFL Football Talk. I guess, David, the weekend's coming up. Another set of football games, but one was played last night, which I guess I'll ask you and your opinion on, were you surprised that BC did what they did to Hamilton?
No, because I thought they should have won the last game these two teams played against each other. They both teams have really good offenses, have dynamic playmakers, quarterbacks that like to make big plays. But what they don't have is, unfortunately, the defenses didn't exactly, in my opinion, I don't think they really held their end of the bargain. Like, at the same time, there were some great plays made. I'm not putting this all on
the defense.
Yeah, exactly. But I also think that this game, when you look at it, I said, BC, despite the mistakes that they were making, they kept it close, and they did what they needed to do to win that game. I mean, and they also left I thought it was going to be over initially when they went down, they scored the touchdown. And then Hamilton's like, well, we still got time on the clock. And they got the field goal there. But I do think that, I'm not surprised. I felt like Hamilton had gotten, they took that last win over BC. And, I thought it was offensively, great effort by BC.
The danger of success, the biggest danger of success is complacency. And I'm not saying that Hamilton was complacent, but I'm just putting it out there that can be part of the formula that leads to a team losing, getting comfortable, winning. What I can say, though, when it comes to, if we start under center, now, if we don't know the score, if we don't know how the game ended, you've got Nathan Rourke with 2 TDs and an interception. And let me compare that to Bo Levi Mitchell, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So it appears, at least in this game, there was more to it for BC than just the quarterbacking, because Bo Levi Mitchell by himself getting 3 touchdowns and not losing the ball at any time in the game would indicate that would have given Hamilton a really good chance of dominating this game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like watching this game, I was like, this is supposed to be a big offensive matchup, right? Like, we were talking about this, how both teams are going to light the scoreboard. They only scored 20 points. Now, granted, 20 points is pretty good for some football games, but 20 points between these two teams, I was like, really? No, Hamilton scored 21 alone in the third quarter, and then BC had 15. Like, that third quarter was just absolutely nuts, bananas. But again, like, I looked at this as, frankly, the only reason why I felt that Hamilton had any chance in this game was because turnovers. Turnovers by BC at certain times, and Hamilton was able to capitalize. But yeah, I give Bo Levi Mitchell a lot of credit, because he threw the ball quite a bit, but he was spreading that ball out quite well. He was getting a lot of different people in the mix. And I think that was kind of needed, because they definitely were trying to make sure that Kenny Lawler wasn't going to be as much of an X factor. But then Kenny Lawler goes and he makes this ridiculous catch while he's falling down, like crazy catch.
Nobody received for more than 84 yards. Lawler was 82. White was 84. On the other hand, and you look at BC, to your point, there were 2 players that really, really had great games. And I'm looking at Justin McInnes with 159 yards on 12 targets, 8 receptions. And this guy that I'm really starting to gravitate to is this guy's an all-star, Aiden Eberhardt. Maybe not to the same extent that Lawler makes great catches, but Eberhardt makes catches that you're not sure somebody's going to catch. I love his catch radius.
Yeah, his catch radius is absolutely ridiculous. Like we saw in this game, two receivers that doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter the coverage that's on them. You throw the ball the way they're going to get it. Kenny Lawler's one, and Justin McInnis is the other.
Yeah, he's really done a great job. And you know, BC has a quarterback that we expect a lot more from. But what I can say about this is the good news for BC, if you're looking at this, their quarterback hasn't been the best he can be yet. Now, imagine once he starts finding a rhythm, because right now he's having a little more difficulty. That's a continuation of the end of last year when he came back to BC, and not the guy that originally came. I wonder sometimes. Not sometimes. I wonder all the time. What's the difference? And you know, I don't know what the difference is, David.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of tough because for like Nathan Rourke, you know, he's put up some great numbers this year, but then it's like sometimes like, well, why hasn't it been good enough? And then it's like, well, it's just like a costly mistake here and there that, you know, has kind of been his kind of been a faux pas for him. But like you look at the numbers he's thrown this year, and it's like, okay, and if you look at these stats and if you throw them up week after week, people are like, yeah, I know this quarterback, this team should be above 500.
Absolutely.
But guess what? They're a game below 500. That's the crazy part.
Last night was a good game for them to win, a great confidence builder. Both teams, the running game was mediocre for both teams. And to think with the mediocrity of the running game, they still scored a lot of points. I mean, what is it together? 89? What? Let me don't have the score in front of me. 41-38, 79. My bad. 79 points between the two of them. And the running game for neither was really exciting. 85 yards in today's CFL, that's not bad.
No, it's not. It's not that bad at all. We've seen some really good performances that kind of been wasted in a lot of ways, and I feel like Nathan Rourke has had some. You know, Vernon Adams, you know, he had when he's been good, team's been good. Nick Arbuckle's had some wasted performances in terms of he's looked good, but it's hasn't led to wins. Like this is where, okay, it's important to have a quarterback in this league, but it's important that the quarterback has everything that's needed. Otherwise, you know, you're kind of just wasting. Right, you're gonna be why? Well, we have the quarterback. Why exactly can't we get? Why can't they get wins? Why can't they figure this out?
It's mind-boggling, but I guess it is what it is. Let's talk about let's go back a week. We talked about last night's game, which is of course in week 10. Week 9, we had Ottawa hand Calgary a 31-11 loss. We're expecting Ottawa with the injuries starting to trickle back into the game. Their defense, because key players are back in defense, Ottawa's been a team that has needed their defense to win. The offense, we've seen possibilities. It just hasn't been consistent with the offense. But in this game, Ottawa looked really good. And Calgary, wrong Alberta team, Frank. Calgary, a team that has been pretty dominant through the season, didn't look like the kind of team, and I think their defense kind of let them down. I think we talked about it last week a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, last week there were some. I'm looking at the games last week. We had two. Okay, let's say two blowouts, two
Yep.
games that weren't close, and two games that were close. Like it's crazy the discrepancies with with the games that were played. And I'm struggling right now. One thing I'm struggling with is certain teams that you think look like contenders. Are they contenders? And then teams that look like, they should be bad, but they're either staying close or they're picking up impressive wins. Like it's kind of been tough to really gauge. Like if you were to tell me who the favorites are, I can tell you who I think the favorites are, but then you go out and you actually play the games, and it's like it's getting a little tougher to know for sure.
Yeah, specifically what you're saying is that you didn't expect we didn't expect Ottawa to win by the score that they did. We didn't expect Saskatchewan to beat Montreal by the score that they did. And ho hum, Hamilton over Edmonton by 4, Winnipeg over Toronto by 3, and this is Winnipeg, a team that wins at home all the time, it seems, and a team that 3 losses in a row fired them up. And the best they could do was win by 3 against a team that's been inconsistent all season. To your point, I think that's what you're trying to say, and I think those scores. I'm drilling down a little bit, but I think that's the issue that you're talking about. The predictability of the games is just not there. Wasn't this week, at least. This past week. Let's talk a little bit about the Argo game.
Okay.
Again, Arbuckle trending better. Not leaps and bounds, but it's easy to say that he's taken steps every week where he's improved himself. He may have not improved that much from week to week, but he's always, it seems, improved. The problem is that the rest of the team is not keeping up with him, David. And the Argos are watching their season go out the window because, the crossover now is becoming a reality. And the crossover, is something now that the Argos need to concern themselves about.
Here's the thing. You look at the two quarterbacks. Nick Arbuckle was the better quarterback.
Absolutely.
Chris Traveler did everything he could to almost lose that game for Winnipeg. As harsh that might seem, he definitely did. They didn't put him in a good position to succeed. But Toronto made too many mistakes. 2 of them being, one, there was no run game. And that made Nick Arbuckle a target for the pass rush all game long.
Yeah.
Second, special teams. Not very special.
Oh my goodness.
I talked to Ryan Dinwiddie about the special teams and how, obviously it cost him the game, and it's just like what was the reason? Like why is the team struggling with it? And he's like, well, guys are not staying in their lanes, right? There's guys who are, when you get out of your lanes, it leads to these big breaks. But, I don't think I've ever seen an Argo team allow a punt return touchdown and a kickoff return touchdown in the same game. And that to me is very that's discouraging in a lot of ways.
When things like that happen, often, not necessarily this time, but one of the reasons it happens where players don't stay in their lane is because they're getting out of their lane to try and help somebody who's looking in trouble. And that's when the breakdown happens, when everybody's doing something other than what they're supposed to be doing, even if there's a good reason for them in their own mind to do what they're doing. So the thing of it is that twice, to your point, is once you allow a kick return for a TD, whether it's a kickoff or a punt, you would think that you would tighten things up. That's the part that's difficult to understand, is that you really screwed up as a group. How do you not at least tighten up the defense defending a guy kicking a ball back. It just boggled my mind as looking at it. I was very confused about why that was so easy, but it does happen when you have a kick returner. The one thing that we saw in the kick returns, it was lights out running. Like it was speed finding the holes, and the Argos unable to set up fast enough to negate that speed being an issue. They literally watched a speeding car go by them, past them. It was kind of something that needs to be looked at. And this special teams Argos has had problems all year, and it's not like they have a new coach of special teams. It's the same coach that's been there for years now, and you're getting a different result under his leadership. And there are questions, I guess, that come up with, are the right people on special teams?
Yeah, and again, this comes down to, is it, people are saying, fire the special teams coordinator, what's he doing, this and that. He may be putting out the right game plan. You said it, he's been here for years, and Toronto special teams have been among the tops in the league in a lot of categories. But here's the thing: the personnel's changed. They're missing players. Guys are injured. They've traded away some of those guys have left, in free agency, or they've traded some guys away. Like there's different, and when you're talking to American players too, and having them get up to speed with special teams, it's different from them because they're not used to the field size, the rules with the special teams. So there's a bit of teaching involved.
Kick returns.
Yeah.
It's David, in the NFL, they're almost making it irrelevant.
Yeah.
So if you're a guy aspiring to play in the NFL and you go, I didn't make it here, let's see what the CFL's like, and they put you on special teams, the intensity of special teams in Canadian football is ratcheted up much more than it is in the NFL. It's a whole different kettle of fish. And it's accepting that I think is one of the problems that players have on special teams. And that's why experience on special teams is so important. We've seen over the years, players who aren't starters who are working on becoming a starter, and they do it by going through special teams and proving that they have the talent to be a starter, right? But if you're getting guys who aren't able to prove that they can be a starter and they're not at that first bit, it makes it hard for a coach to put a group together that's cohesive. The cohesiveness of special teams, I think, is more than any other area in football, because in Canadian football, at least, because starters are starters. Special teams guys have to understand the dedication they need to be special teams players.
Well, that's it, right? It's a craft. There are guys you say, well, what's this guy's role? He's like, well, he's a special teams player. And they're like, but that is something that those guys, they get to be on the field. They play a big part in the game. They may not be on the offense or defense a whole lot, but guess what? They have more of an impact, I think people realize, and they're more and teams, when they look at why do they bring this guy in, you'll hear the coach say, well, yeah, he's a good special teams player, or he'll help us on special teams. There is a value to those players in the CFL. Maybe it gets lost on some people, but it definitely I think people definitely don't understand just how much special teams in the CFL. It's I talked to some of my friends who aren't CFL fans. They'll be like, oh, why exactly is why exactly aren't people given the, like, in the CFL, why are special teams such a big deal, right? Or why are the rules? Because it allows it to be an actual big component of the game. And so that's like with the Argos, allowing these 2 touchdowns, it was the reason why Winnipeg won this game. Like, frankly, they weren't doing that much offensively. Winnipeg. Like if you gifted them, and I say this politely to Winnipeg, but Toronto gifted them 14 points because they screwed things up on special teams. The one area that, guess what, when you screw up, it can be a backbreaker. It can give teams momentum too, right? Because hey, look, they just gifted us a touchdown. Oh, they gave us 2 touchdowns. It takes the pressure off the offense. The defense can now feel like that they could do certain things because they've got a bit of how's the way I want to say it? They have the defense can be a little more aggressive because they got a lead and they get, when you're getting a big lead like Winnipeg had, right? When they like 31 points in the 31 points in that first half. I had people text me, "Oh, this is over," and I'm like, "It looks over. I don't think it is." I said because Toronto has one thing going for them: they figure things out on special teams. You got to force Winnipeg to beat you in other facets. Eventually, they did, but I look at this game and I said, like, special teams. It just another reminder in the CFL why you need to be solid on all 3 phases. If one phase of your team is not up to snuff, it's going to get exposed, and it was.
Absolutely, it's something. It's something always to consider. I guess what we're getting with Toronto, and let's give Winnipeg credit. They're tough at home, and that was a great home victory for them. And they played the kind of game they needed to play with their backup quarterback. So they need to be commended for the victory. The Argos are playing with their backup quarterback, but he's not. You can't call him their backup quarterback any longer. It's been half a season, right, of the same quarterback. So he's their starter. And as the team playing with their starter, they need to produce better. They need to help him win. And they're just not. They're just not helping him win. And we can point at bad parts of his game. We can point at mistakes that he's made. But none of the mistakes that he's made in any of the games were the total reason why the team lost. And that's a simple fact. They haven't been losing because of a backup quarterback, is what I'm saying. Plain and simple.
Yeah, no, and I think, at this rate, I know a lot of people says, oh, if Chad Kelly is not there. Nick Arbuckle has been known. We knew from the start of the year Nick Arbuckle was going to be the quarterback. So any of the thought that, if Chad Kelly, you can't have that thought anymore, right? We're in we're going to be heading into week 10. That notion is gone, right? It's almost like what's enough like. I understand that people feel like if Chad Kelly was a starter, it would be a different story. And in some degree, there is a bit of that because especially at the beginning of the year where Arbuckle wasn't up to snuff, they could have used Chad Kelly, that's for sure. I look at this last game and I look at this loss and I say, even if Chad Kelly was the quarterback, maybe it would have been a little differently earlier in the game, maybe. But there was a lot more issues. Like Chad Kelly can't make an offensive line play better, right? Maybe he could run a bit more, but guess what? This version of Chad Kelly that would have come back from the injury likely isn't going to be running as much either. So I think that was one thing Winnipeg did better, though. Like defensively, they made sure that Nick Arbuckle wasn't going to break out of the pocket for runs. Yeah, the defense, I give them a lot of. I mean, look, that defense with Willie Jefferson, he was an animal, absolute animal.
He was a fence.
Like he only had 1 sack, but it was the knockdowns.
4
knockdowns, in some ways, are almost just as good at sacks. So I do think that. I look at this game and I say it's not the quarterback, and people are saying, "Oh, they should put in a different quarterback." What's a different quarterback going to do different? In my opinion, this was not about quarterback.
If you want to have a conversation about the difference between Kelly and Arbuckle, let's just say, okay, Kelly in there is going to play better or contribute more to a win, but I don't think he would have contributed to more than 2 extra wins. Because those losses, too many of the losses were breaking, not bending defensively. And they were suffering under the pressure of the opposition. And the opposition was able to do what they need. I'm referring to it in the sense of reverse garbage time, if you understand what I'm trying to get at. Teams sometimes let up when they don't need anymore. And I think there were too many opportunities where the Argos just left the other team to the point where the other team just said, well, we're going to win this game. We'll just play a little of this. We'll give them this. We'll give them this. We'll give them this. So some of the games were close, not because the Argos played close enough to win or close enough, but because the other team got so far in front, they weren't really worried about them, basically doing anything really dangerous. And one of the signs of that is when the Argos did do they had some great series, back-to-back series, which made it look like they were really playing much better, right? Which they were. But I just don't think like this Argo football team looks like they're capable of winning consistently, because the problem, and I agree with you, is not at quarterback. Their problem is not quarterback. It's everywhere else. And until they resolve everywhere else, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. Besides, David, what's the difference between being 2-6 and 3-5? Like, what's the difference? What's the difference? You want to make the playoffs? You got to be close to 500.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. And right now, like that's what made this loss tough, because they could have been 3-5.
It's about the third one that we've seen like that.
Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Montreal.
Right.
It's
all 3 teams.
That's 3 potential wins. This team could have been. I think those 3 were winnable games, and that could have been a 5-3 record instead of a 2-6 record. They'd be within. They would be within striking distance of Hamilton. Like, the Hamilton loss is the one loss. Hamilton and Calgary are the 2 losses I look at and I say, yeah, they deserve to lose those games. There was no way. Like, it's not like they got screwed or they fumbled at it. No, they got beat.
A bad break.
There was no bad breaks. They got beat. Especially when you give up 51 points. But like Saskatchewan, you gave up a kickoff at the end of the game. At the end there.
Oh.
Calgary, they had their number, even though they kept it within 10 points. Calgary had their number.
Right.
Montreal, you lose that by 1 point when you had, I think, it was an 18-point lead on them. Can't lose that game. And then the Winnipeg one, that one again was just, and even like the opening game against Montreal too, like that was, they deserved to lose that game, but they're also shooting themselves in the foot quite a bit. But they deserved to, like, those were games where, like, okay, I can understand it. And that's what made it frustrating, because they definitely could have won 3 games for sure, and it would have made a huge difference.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move to another game. So Toronto loses 40-31. Hamilton defeats Edmonton. And we're looking at an Edmonton team, much like Toronto, that can't figure out how to win. They replaced their quarterback. He, after the game, admits that, I could have done better. And I don't think it was on him. I don't think it was on Fajardo.
No, I don't think this is on Cody Fajardo at all. Like, I think the 2 losses with him in that quarterback, he's provided them way better quarterback play, better opportunity. the one thing they had going, they were doing better with the run game too, so they weren't a one-dimensional team as much. They're just making mistakes. They did have the one interception. Okay, you give them that one, but I look at it as defensively. They brought in so many players this offseason, right? This past offseason, and the defense just hasn't been good enough. Giving up too many points, right? Now, look, Jake Serezna, he's hurt. So that's one guy that they're without. I think Royce Metier, he's been hurt, so they don't have him. But they still got Tyrell Ford, who was supposed to be one of the top Canadian defensive backs. Robbie Smith, an emerging. They paid Robbie Smith quite a bit of money, and they haven't gotten the most out of him. Brandon Barlow, they got some names on this defense, and we talk a lot about the recruitment from the Toronto's defense. Just because you bring in the players doesn't mean the game plan is going to work out. If there's just not enough, they're just not getting enough from their defense, frankly. Now, they allowed 28 points, which is an improvement from them, but it simply hasn't been good enough.
Absolutely, and it has to be better. Edmonton not doing enough to win, as you said, and Hamilton. The last game they lost was predictable, and I'll say for this reason: there were a lot of games before they lost that game. They won 6 in a row. There were a couple of games in that 6-game run that they could have lost. This was an eventuality that finally happened, where finally, they figured out how to lose. As opposed to figuring out how to win. And it wasn't that, again, I repeat, this is another time Bo Levi Mitchell does as good as a quarterback can do. For me, he's the MVP this year. There isn't a player, and we usually gravitate to quarterbacks when it comes to MVPs.
Yeah, we always do.
So, we end up going there. But there isn't a quarterback in the Canadian Football League that has been as consistent from day one as Bo Levi Mitchell. He has been a real workhorse for this Hamilton Tiger Cat team. He has given them everything they need on offense to allow the rest of the team to pick up their fair share of control of the game, and it's been very successful for them. It's been a very good formula. This past week, it didn't quite work out, and I think with Edmonton could have been the team that beat them. It just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, that's totally true. I do think that this was one of those things where I look at the way that I look at the way that this season has gone for Edmonton. And I truly think that this was a game here where, I'd like to see if they had made the change to Fajardo earlier. Maybe they would give them a little more confidence, potentially. But no, I just look at the way that things have gone this year for Edmonton, and it's just a reminder that you can be the best team in terms of the offseason and adding all those players, but you're bringing in a whole new coaching staff. It's not always that easy. It's not that easy. Like Toronto, even when Toronto got Ryan Dinwiddie, it wasn't a major success right away. It took time. Yes, they were better than Edmonton was at that rate, but I think that it's tough to compare the situations and say, oh yeah, this was going to be right off the hop easy going.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Montreal and Saskatchewan, and I think McLeod Bethel Thompson, 1 interception, no TDs, 126 yards, no running game. Montreal has has shown this side of their game. And it pops up. It's been popping up this year from time to time where their offense is not generating anything. And yes, their starting quarterback is injured. But the inconsistency of their offense this year has been the past 3 years. I think this has been the most inconsistent offense they've had in the past 3 years. 1 year they won the Grey Cup. The next year they won the division. And this year, they could win the division again, maybe. They're within striking distance. But for some reason, their offense just can't generate a decent offense. No running game, no passing game. It's a whole different team than I expect to show up.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Saskatchewan. Here's the thing: Saskatchewan was playing like they wanted to flex their muscle. They did not want Montreal to look like they were going to be able to get by with McLeod. They wanted to put doubt in McLeod Bethel Thompson's eyes, and they did that, right? They took away the run game. The run game wasn't effective at all. McLeod Bethel Thompson was going to have to be the one to beat the Saskatchewan, and that didn't happen at all. Right? Like Saskatchewan ran the ball. They just played. They were playing right on all phases. Like I couldn't find any really flaw. And to me, what this did is kind of reinsert themselves as the top dog on the CFL. Like if you're Montreal, yeah, it's a bad loss, but it's a loss to a really good Saskatchewan team. Like you're not going to fall early in a game and hope for a last minute comeback. That's not Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's not going to allow that. And look, they had a bit of a scare against Edmonton the week before, so they needed, I think, a little bit of a jolt to get back. And like the one loss that they've had this year was against Calgary, who, frankly, okay, they exposed them a little bit. They, Trevor Harris was good, but they were it just wasn't good enough. Vernon Adams was, equally to the task as well, and just like. I look at the Saskatchewan team and I say, this is a team that can go all the way, right? And that game against Montreal showed it. Now, the big problem here with Montreal is, oh boy, that's the first game since the injury to Davis Alexander. He ain't coming back anytime soon.
Nope.
You got to be a little concerned because now you lose that game. Now you got a little, I wouldn't say a gimme, but they got a bit of a easier matchup with Edmonton, although this is an Edmonton team with a Cody Fajardo that maybe wants to show something against his former team.
Yep.
Maybe you shouldn't have gotten rid of me. I'm loving that potential narrative. But you look, it's Elks, Alouettes, Blue Bombers, Ticats, Rough Riders. There ain't much of a break in this schedule coming up for Montreal. So if you're Toronto and Ottawa, the next 4 games for Montreal are critical, and that means the next 4 games for Toronto and Ottawa are critical. And if I'm Montreal, that defense has to step up. And they have in a lot of ways, but they're really going to have to step up because I don't know if this Montreal offense now, I've been proven wrong. I've been proven wrong by Montreal before, but man, they're going to have to really turn things around because this can get very sour very quick.
Well, consistency's been, like I said, when we started this conversation about Montreal, they just haven't been as consistent a team as they have been in the past 3 years. If this is year 3, so they've got their work cut out for them. We said it before, and we'll say it again. Tomorrow, Ottawa and Toronto are playing in Toronto. And one of them could start a bit of a run to challenge for third place in regards to maintaining third place, getting a bit of a gap going and shrink the distance between third and second. This is the opportunity this weekend that presents itself for Toronto and Ottawa, and the one that should scare Montreal if they don't find themselves and regret the victory they had against Toronto. We said it before. Davis Alexander shouldn't have played that game. We know he shouldn't have played that game. We saw him hobbled. and it was a great victory. But that victory may lead them, and we said it at that time, it could lead to multiple losses that they may not have had because he gets to come back earlier than he will now, right? So that's the problem Montreal has to deal with now. Is McLeod Bethel-Thompson the backup quarterback that can help that team be a 50-50 team? Because that's what backup quarterbacks have to do in the Canadian Football League. They have to win as many as they lose, no matter what team they are, if they're teams to have a chance come, Labor Day and a discussion about making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing: they have a little bit of a cushion right now, Montreal, because they were so good to start the year. And look, I mean, Hamilton's loss also makes them probably feel like they got an opportunity there as well, but they're gonna have to really step up their game. And look, Jason Moss he's found ways to win with not a lot, right? And, well, he's got talent, but when people are doubting Montreal, they find a way. It's just I just look at how they've lost, and it leaves me with a sour taste because it's a lot of their own undoing. Absolutely. Saskatchewan was good, but it just felt like a mismatch right from the hop. They looked outmatched, and that's going to be tough mentally to get back to where they need to be. Absolutely. Right. So yeah, this game against Edmonton. First off, you lose to Edmonton, it sends a bit of a panic, right? Because Edmonton's a team that they've won a game, but they won a game against the other worst team in my opinion, the CFL, and that's what makes this whole Montreal loss to Saskatchewan. It's just like, okay, you could lose to Saskatchewan. I'm not expecting them to win that, but in the fashion that they lost, that's probably what was more concerning for me.
Yeah, for sure. So looking at Toronto and Ottawa, we've talked about them playing. Ottawa, they have played well in Toronto the past few years, and that includes their playoff game. But what they haven't done is take over the football game. They've controlled it for a little bit, but they haven't controlled it long enough against Toronto. They've allowed Toronto to make the big play to win the big game, and also the regular season games. David, do you think their quarterback can do what it takes to beat Toronto? And I guess the other end of the question is, can Arbuckle continue his incrementally better play? And will it be enough to win against Ottawa?
Yeah, so I think Toronto has what's the one thing that's going for them. I think their offense is better than Ottawa. I think Ottawa's offense had a really good showing against a Calgary defense that is good, but has been dealing with some injuries as well. So you kind of have to look at the good and bad of that. I think the one thing that Ottawa's got to realize, they got to protect Drew Brown. They didn't do that very well. Well, actually, Drew Brown didn't play against Toronto. I'm pretty sure.
Did he start against them and then not? And then get injured?
Dustin Crum at one point did come into the game. I got to look back at that game because it feels like forever ago. Like somebody was telling me, "Oh my God, we're already at the halfway point of the season." I'm like, yeah, I know. So Dustin Crum, so that was a Dustin Crum game. Drew Brown did not play, so that's the one thing Ottawa can at least say, "Hey, they didn't play our quarterback last time."
Yep,
very true. I thought, we saw Drew Brown and Geno Lewis get that connection going. That's very important for them. Justin Hardy has been playing pretty good. Braylon Addison is the one where I feel like he's due for a big game, and he's always had big games against Toronto. That's the first. Can Drew Brown get his receivers going early? Toronto has struggled getting early. Ryan Dinwiddie says through the 60 minutes we have a hard time putting up offense, and that's, I think, especially true for Ottawa. They haven't been able to do it consistently. But here's the other thing too: the defense for Ottawa. That's the key there. Mm-hmm. They have to set the tone. Three interceptions is pretty good on, but that was PJ Walker. who is still new to the CFL. Now, Nick Arbuckle has been prone to throwing interceptions, so that's one thing that you can look at. But here's the thing. I don't think Ottawa can rely on Nick Arbuckle making those same mistakes. I really don't.
He's gotten better.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten better. I think what Ottawa does well, though, is they make you throw the ball because Calgary could not run the ball to save their lives. And
the Argos don't need any help to not run the ball.
Exactly. And so that's the concern there for Toronto is that Ottawa, but like Toronto did very well against that defense, but we know that there was the Sluka game. Now Derek Sluka is playing in this game. They did confirm that he is returning, but Toronto needed a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown to win that game. Offensively, they weren't good enough. So Ottawa can win this if their defense gives Toronto's offense a tough time. If they shorten the field, they got to shorten the field for their offense because the Red Blacks struggle with long drives. They can't get the long drives. I look at that game against Hamilton. They could have beaten Hamilton a few weeks ago, but they were making mistakes after mistake after mistake. They kicked the field goal when they were on like a 3rd and 2. Like those are things where, Drew Brown got hurt because he got absolutely shellacked on a tackle. That guy that was unblocked. Like Ottawa has to play a sound game. Try to maybe exploit the special teams issues that Toronto has. Like this is a winnable game for Ottawa, But a lot has to go right for them because Toronto is going to be pissed off about how last week went for them.
Mistakes will kill either of these teams. Mistakes. The team that makes more mistakes in this game is going to lose. That's my prediction. Mistakes is going to be the story of the day. Whether it's the quarterback making a mistake, whether it's defense, offense, special teams, mistakes are going to cost one of these teams the game. The reason they find themselves with the record that they have at this time is because they've made too many mistakes. They've allowed the other team the opportunity to basically put points on the board and not do enough to stop, to be consistent offensively and defensively and on special teams. The team that plays the best three parts of the game is going to win this and makes the least mistakes. It's as simple as that for me, David. Having watched these teams, mistakes have been the domination of their losses.
Yeah, I know exactly, and I think it's whichever team makes the fewer mistakes, in my opinion, that's the team that's going to win this game. That's how I see it.
Absolutely.
And if anybody who's listening to this is going to the Argo game, bring a food donation. It's the Pure Later Tackle for Hunger. That's how I think that's how it's called. So if you bring a non-perishable item, they're accepting those donations before the game, and it's a hat giveaway as well. So you may give and receive. Yes,
it's always good to give, and you might receive. That's good. Yeah, great opportunity for. The weather's been really hot. Some rain's coming in. That's maybe going to help change the temperature, the trending temperature. It's been a really interesting summer for heat. The Argos played in the rain, something we haven't seen. It's going to be an interesting game, and I'm wondering, David, is just hindsight being 2020. Okay, just hindsight's 2020. Do you think, looking back, the Argos could have handled the Kelly situation a little better?
Yeah, I've been asked this a few times, and I think where they went wrong is doing the week to week. Is he going to play? Won't he play? And all that. They probably would have been better off say, okay, take the first few weeks, work on your leg, right? Get a little better. I think there was just hesitation on. They were not sure. They just were not sure. If it's a delicate injury because they're trying to get the strength back in the leg. And, someone says, well, is there a concern about bone density? I don't know if there was a concern. He wouldn't have been cleared for some of the practice stuff that he had been doing, right? I just think this decision was made because it was becoming too much of a distraction. Will he play or won't he play?
The distraction, in my opinion, now there's two different ways to look at this.
Yeah.
Look at it from game to game, or look at it from the longer term. From the longer term perspective, looking back, in my opinion, they would have been better off to say he's starting on the 6th game. Let the team concentrate on this is their quarterback, being Arbuckle. Let Arbuckle know, okay, we know we're giving you're getting the ball the next 6 games or the next 6 weeks, whatever it is, right? And allow the team to just focus on who is on the field. I just think the distraction is, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? And you know what? I don't think that's lost on the players either. I think a lot of players are wondering, well, maybe he's coming back this week. Well, if he wasn't coming back this week or next week, why wouldn't they just put him on? To me, it was a distraction looking at it, hindsight being 2020. They should have put him on the 6th game. They could have pulled him off early. They could have done that. And then basically everybody knows, the media, everybody knows he's not in. Forget about asking us. Let's talk about the football team. Let's talk about what's going on now. Not just the media, but the team itself, the coaches themselves, because it sounds to me they were distracted by the fact that they were trying to make a decision on whether he's going to come next week, the next week. Like Dinwiddie's getting asked every week, is Kelly coming back next week? Like, it was a distraction the way they did it. It became a distraction.
It was asked in every press conference, post, pre. They should have put him on the 6th game, and they could have easily pulled him off early. They could have done that.
That's what they should have
probably
done. There was no benefit going game to game anyway. It's not like they were getting any kind of relief on the cap.
No, they were not. That was the other thing too. They could have saved cap space by doing it this way. But I think there was but their
running back. Maybe they keep their running back carry if they did that. If they
part of it, I think that could have been part of it. And the other thing I wondered too is, was this just an organization decision, or did Kelly initially say, I'm going to push to play? And if he's pushing to play, it's tough to push back. Maybe I don't know for sure. I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but there's two sides to this story. It's not just the team decision with this.
Now you're raising the specter of one of my major concerns. My one criticism of Ryan Dinwiddie, love him to death, best coach, the head coach the Argos have had in a very long time. He's done a masterful job, but his one weakness has been, since he's been the head coach of the Argos, has been the latitude he has given his quarterbacks, whether it's interviews at the end of the game, whether it's determining when they're going to come back, which is what we're learning from Kelly. I think that's the Achilles heel of Ryan Dinwiddie in trying to keep the quarterback happy. In a lot of instances we've seen, if you think about what I'm saying, David, a lot of times the quarterback dictated what was going to happen. I don't think that's a good thing. And that to me has been the one weakness that Ryan Dinwiddie has had as head coach. His quarterbacks have been given way too much latitude to not show up for interviews, to take a step back, to decide when they're healthy enough to play. All these things to me are in a long distance as opposed to week to week. I think that's been one of the biggest problems that the Argos have had, is they've respected their quarterbacks, which every player deserves, but they may have respected them a little bit too much and given them too much reign of responsibility or decision making.
Yeah. It's again, this is such a delicate, again, just one of those situations where it's not totally, there was no really set timetable. And I think that, that's probably where things should have been more clear. But, the Argos at the end of the day, that's on, there's multiple, I wouldn't put the blame on one person or whatever. That'd be a little, little tough, unfair. But yeah, like this is one of those things where, especially early on when Arbuckle was struggling, Chad Kelly's name was brought up every time. And I'm sure a bit in Nick Arbuckle's eyes, a little, and in his mentality, maybe there was a bit of, I have to hear about this. I don't have to worry about Chad coming in and taking my job or take away my playing time. There's a little bit of that involved, and I think that decision to put Kelly on the 6th game now, I think it has a lot to do with also Arbuckle having the mindset that it's his to run with right now, and he doesn't have to worry about his job for the time being too. I think there's a little of that involved.
It's very easy for me to say that right now, sitting in this position, except for one minor detail. It's what I felt all season. I didn't think he'd be back before 7-8 weeks. So, in my opinion, at the time, they should have put him on the 6th game, and I would have put him on the 6th game. Not that I'm a coach expert, but I would have put him on the 6th game to basically say, this is where we are, boys. Let's work with what we've got. And the media, when they ask a question, they aren't going to ask that question, So everybody's pulling on the rope in one direction, and that is Arbuckle's our quarterback. Players, it because Kelly's on the 6th game. Reporters, it because Kelly's on the 6th game. And Kelly, you keep talking about coming back in a couple of weeks. That's fine. With us, you can talk about that. We'll accommodate you if we feel. This is where you, if you want to, where what you're saying is fair. That you can't blame it all on Dinwiddie. But as a group, they should have stuck strong and said, you know what, come to us behind the scenes. Let's talk about it privately, just between us. Let's have our debate on whether you're ready to start or not, privately, not in the media, not that kind of stuff. Just straight up face to face. That's where I'm saying the mistake.
Yeah, there should have been let's not say anything for now. You know what? We're gonna take it. We're just gonna. The problem is he couldn't say, "Oh, we're gonna look at it again next week," because then it's just he probably just said, "We're just gonna hold off for now until we get a better idea of where he is," or something along those lines. But I don't envy the where he found himself.
Absolutely. Look, I'm gonna fix what I said before, and I'll take Dinwiddie and say his part in what happened. That he wasn't the only one who made that decision. After all, Kelly had some say in it, and I'm sure upper management had a say in it as well. Now, was there any reason? What's the motivation? Like, I'm trying to understand. The simplest thing to say is, well, if they want to sell tickets, they want people to think Kelly's coming back. I think that's pretty. I think that's. I don't think that's beyond the pale. I don't think the Argos would make a decision in that regard. But at the end of the day, there's nothing else left. Why you're putting hope out there that he's coming back? I mean, and this isn't the first time. The same thing happened when he was suspended. At the end there was talk about, is he coming this week, next week, this week, next week? Remember, it went on for a few weeks there before he actually came back. While he's practicing, he might be able to start right away, and then he didn't start. I mean, it's not like I'm talking about something that this is the first time something like this happened, where for some reason there was talk that he was coming back, and essentially he didn't come back. And where did it start? How did it get promoted? And how do you not make that same mistake again? So I'm only saying what I'm saying today based on next year. If something happens that the Argos,
you live and learn in this situation. It's definitely a learning experience.
They've got to learn that when it comes to Kelly specifically, they've got to help him to understand, that we're listening to you, but we're going to make this a private conversation. We don't want to talk to reporters about it. We don't want to talk to the team about it. When you're ready to play, we will announce it and you will start. That's what they have to do. I don't like the way this was handled both times. And it just, we had conversations, David, where we disagreed about when he was going to come back. And that's what I'm talking about. The disagreement is a distraction. At the end of the day, Arbuckle is the starting quarterback. When he starts this week, hopefully he does some incrementally improvements. and the defense and special teams have learned from their past mistakes. That's how the Argos are going to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's where.
Yeah. It's fans have trust me. Fans have shown a lot of frustration with all this. I've heard a lot of it. I get it, and I hopefully the Argos understand where they could have done things a little differently in all this. But again, they're gonna have to. You take your lumps. You understand where things could have gone better, and you move forward.
That's all you do. But learn from your mistakes. And that's what the Argos as a team have to do this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for doing this, David. Much appreciated. All right, he's David Morassutti. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching CFL Football Talk. Don't forget you to check us out on Candid Frank Stanishi 1030 on YouTube. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Great week of football coming up. Great weekend.
We'll be right back.